Alright, welcome back to Tea Time with Allie and
Angelique. Sorry, I'm trying to get my tea.
We are so glad you're here. I'm pretty sure I read last time.
I don't know. Maybe you did.
So I'm going to say it's your turn.
I usually just say it's your turn because I feel like you always try to make me. Anywho. Ow, it's a hot mug. Beauty is not caused, it is. Emily Dickinson. I know, we've had like all of the ones they have at this point. We're gonna either have to find funny ones on Etsy or move on to something new.
Bummer. If you truly love nature, you will find beauty everywhere. Vincent van Gogh.
That was unnecessary.
I thought it was necessary.
Alright, I appreciate it.
Thank you. So today we are talking about rock bottoms and what? I said bottom. Were you 7?
Plus 21. 22. Plus 22.
You're 29.
When did I get so old?
I'm about to be old myself, so
Monday.
Monday.
Allie's joining the rank of old people on Monday.
Yeah, I'm not going to be in my mid-20s anymore. I'm going to be in my late 20s. Yay me. Anyway,
that has nothing to do with the topic today, but
no, it's a rock bottom.
you're not even 30 yet. You don't get to be depressed until you're 30. Anyway,
so we've been kind of building up to this. We did one about insecurities, and then we did the being enough, and now we're gonna like flow into what those thoughts of like our insecurities and how we feel like we're not enough for other people can lead into some of our darkest times. So,
hello darkness, my old friend.
I should have known she was going to start singing.
I always do.
Yeah, that's true. True. All right, so kind of to start this conversation off, because it's a hard one, because you know your lowest points, but it's hard to share your lowest points with other people.
Yeah.
So, I would say one of my lowest points, I've shared it on the podcast with my mom and my dad a couple times, but if you don't listen to the podcast, I'll share it on here, and if you've heard it before,
you get to hear it again.
You get to hear it again. So there was a point where I wasn't going to mass. It was like a whole summer. Summer before I started at SFA. And so I wasn't going to mass. And I was at a pretty low point. I was kind of an awful person at the time. Like, I wasn't very kind to people. I was very into like gossiping about people that were going on, or like things that were going on. I was very hateful towards people that didn't do anything to me, really. And so I was at a bad point, and God really said, listen, I need you to stop this. Yeah, I always say he smacked some sense into me.
He smashed a 18-wheeler in you?
Yeah, so I got hit by a semi-truck, and a lot of people, I say that sometimes, and I forget how uncasual that statement is. Because in my head, it happened, 6 years ago. And it's longer than 6 years ago.
It's been longer than 6. It was 2016, yeah?
Yeah. 2016. Oh my gosh, 8 years ago. So 8 years ago, I'm still a first year teacher in my head, I guess. No, I guess I'd be second year teacher, but whatever. So that was, a while ago. And yet, I still see it as a moment of like turning point in my life where I realized how low I had gotten. And it took a long time to like get out of the low. Like, it wasn't just an easy fix like I thought it was going to be. I was like, oh, I guess I will go to mass now. Like, there was still a progression, and like it's still a steady journey, and like I'm not saying I haven't had a low since then, but that at the time was my lowest low.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You want to share or not?
I will. I think my religious lowest low, I think I'm just going to go religious lowest low.
All right.
Was right after I left SFA and moved to Tyler. I had one friend in Tyler, and
Spoiler alert,
it wasn't Allie. She wasn't here yet. And she wasn't going to Mass, so I wasn't going to Mass. I don't think I went to Mass until like August. I went like 8 months without going to Mass. Yeah, and it was just like, I was just like sad all the time because I was alone all the time. Or like, I felt alone because I didn't have anyone. And I'm not good at making friends. That's not a strong suit that I was given. Like, I feel like I'm easy to be friends with, but I'm not good at building a relationship to friendship. Because I'm awkward and quiet. And that's not always good for friendships. So, anyway, I would literally, like, wake up, go to work, go home, go to bed. Like, I didn't do anything. I didn't have any sort of life. And I got dark and deep, and I just felt like there was no going back to church after being away for so long, which doesn't make sense because, you know, God forgives, and he loves us, and he was watching, and he knew what was going down. But it was just really hard because, like, I didn't, when I, like, looked up and realized it was, like, June, and I didn't celebrate Lent, I didn't celebrate Easter, it felt like it didn't matter, and then it was June, and I was like, I can't go back now, like, I've missed so much, and so I just pushed it off, and then in, like, the end of August, I think you moved there, and I went to Mass with you.
Huh.
Because it was, like, the first time you'd gone to Mass in Tyler. Gonna go to Mass with me? And I was like, yeah, maybe we can go. I was like, I don't want to be here. This kind of sucks. It's fine. It didn't actually suck. I was just uncomfortable because it had been so long. And then it took like another month and a half before I was willing to go to confession because I felt like it had been so long that, like, I wasn't worthy of his forgiveness because I neglected him for so long. So it was a really hard time. But I did it, and confession was hard, and I think that was, like, probably the second time in confession I ever cried. Twice. I think still to this day, I've only cried twice. Nope, it's been 3 times. Sorry, I'm doing math in my head. But it was hard. It was hard to go, and it was, but it was worth it. And then I started going to Mass, even though I didn't feel like it. I would make myself go, and then it got to the point where I wanted to go. But it was just a really hard, like, dry, silent, lonely time. But I made it. I'm still here, and I go to Mass every Sunday. But it was a weird time. It was a weird time to be a me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, like, I think that's one thing that, like a lot of people kind of gloss over when we talk about, like, rock bottoms, because they think about, like, financially
or alcohol,
drug use, like
your whole world falling apart.
Yeah,
like rock bottom.
Like, a lot of people also equate rock bottoms with, like, breaking up with somebody and, like, all of that stuff, or, like, somebody broke up with you.
Yeah.
Like, you're never gonna find love again. But, like, you know, Jesus is always there to love you. And so that's, like, one thing that, like, it's hard to admit whenever you're in that deep, deep state of, like, loathing yourself.
Yeah,
you
because
know?
you start to hate yourself a little, and then it just snowballs into, like, a deep, dark, like, I'm the worst, and there's no one as bad as me.
Yeah, well, and after I had not gone to Mass, I grew up Catholic, but there are a lot of things that I learned much later.
Yeah.
And so, like, I was still receiving the Eucharist after having not gone to Mass and not gone to confession. And, like, I didn't realize that was a mortal sin.
Yeah.
And so I just hadn't been to confession, and then a friend of ours, like, looked me in the eye, and she was like, "You haven't been to confession since you stopped?" And I was like, "Yeah." And, because, like, you know, you're only required to go to, or, like, it's, like, heavily advised to go to confession during Lent and Advent.
Yeah.
And so it's, like, I think Lent is when you have to go, and then it's, like,
Advent when
recommended.
It's like, you should go.
Like, you should just go. Like, me, I go, like, once a week or every 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
And so it's, like, I used to, in college, I had gotten into a really good groove of going, like, once a month. That was a nice little, like, thing. But now, as I've started to realize more things are mortal sins, I feel like I'm like, oh, I gotta go.
I gotta go all the time. It's fine.
It's like, and, like, you do, like, I've had 2 priests in the, like, last few confessions I've been to say, like, you need to be easier on yourself. And I'm like, but if I do that, then I fall into sin so much faster.
Allie beating herself up. The priest is like, calm down on yourself.
Somebody's gotta do it, okay? Anyway, back to, like, rock bottom. And so, like, a lot of people don't equate it with the, like, spiritual stuff. Because they're like, I mean, I still go to church. I still do all the things that, like, I've done. But there is that, like, spiritual slump that you get into. And that's when Lent is, like, a really good time to, like, sit back and reflect on what you are doing. So it's like, well, what am I already doing? What's not working? What could I change? What could I add? What could I fast from to make this the most, like, epic Lent ever? What?
Epic Lent ever.
Yeah, whatever, dude.
It was just the way you said it.
I'm so
Sound like a valley
cool.
girl.
I'm so cool.
Anyway.
So, you know, it's like, this is a really good time for us to sit and reflect, and, like, it's not too late to give something up. It's not too late to add something on. We are still super early in the Lent, so, but Easter's gonna be here before we know it, you know? This year has been really weird. Like, I guess, like,
a weird
school year
year
with how quick things are. Like, Advent happened so quick, and we had that weird Advent in the morning and Christmas in the evening. And now we're gonna have, like, a last day of March Easter. So it's just gotta, like, it's just a weird quick year.
It's a weird year.
Yeah. So, but again, it's still 40 days. So it's like, you still have time. You've only missed 7 of them at this point. Well, it'll be more than 7. We're recording this on Tuesday. So it's only been 7 days since Ash Wednesday.
So weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a weird thought.
I mean, yeah, I guess not exactly 7. Like, tomorrow it'll be 7, but, like, the day's basically over. It's nighttime. I guess the day
We're
is
both
over.
about to go
It's
to
nighttime.
We're both about to go to bed.
Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just talking at this point.
Well, so things to remember about being at rock bottom is that there's nowhere to go but up. So you might as well start up.
Yeah.
Don't do what I did and just sit at the bottom for a long time.
And it is hard a lot of times to admit you're at that rock bottom.
Yes.
Like, I think
and
that's the first.
most people are in denial when they hit the bottom.
And a lot of people actually, I feel like, don't realize they're there. You know, like, there are points where you're like, I'm doing great. I do this, 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 and this. And then, but you're doing this, 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 and this, and not confessing it in confession, so that's hurting you.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and if you don't know, it's a mortal sin to not confess something that you know is a sin. So, like, if you remember something after and you forgot about it, it's forgiven. But if you remember something in the confessional
and you don't
say it,
it's still a sin.
It's still a sin. So it's like, it's an extra sin because you've now not admitted the thing in confession. So, like, if your confessions aren't honest and, like, totally raw, basically, that's going to hurt you spiritually, because then you're like, oh, I'm good, I was in confession, and take the Eucharist, and then it's a mortal sin to take the Eucharist in a state of a mortal sin. And so you're just adding mortal sins on top of mortal sins, and that starts to, like, hit your soul. Like, it's not even, and it's not in, like, I'm sure part of it isn't intentional. Like, you're sitting there thinking, oh, I got this, but then you don't got this.
You don't got this. If you ever think, oh, I got this, you don't got this.
You don't got it.
Just go ahead and assume if you're saying, oh, I got this, you don't got this. That's a pretty safe assumption to make.
Yeah. And, like, this isn't to, like, freak anybody out, because, like, none of us are perfect, and none of us are going to be perfect.
Absolutely not.
None of us are Mary, and none of us are Jesus. We're not going to be perfect.
Absolutely not.
Mary was saved from her sin before she was born. Jesus was fully God and fully man. So, like...
Could you imagine how weird it was to be St. Joseph in that house? Like, the only one making mistakes. Had to be rough. Had to be a tough life.
Not your son Jesus giving you lessons about holiness.
It's gonna be a rough life. Your 13-year-old being like, Dad,
was that
right?
What are we
thing?
doing here? Mary and Jesus waiting for Joseph to get home with a cup of tea. Joseph. But see, here's the thing. They were both without sin, so they wouldn't have sat there and waited.
No, of course
to
not.
reprimand.
That's just us being silly.
Yeah, oh man, that would be so...
It's gotta be rough, though, to be the one making all the mistakes.
It's gotta be. Anyway, so just remember, like, if you're in a state of spiritual slump, don't let it be a rock bottom, because there are slumps without hitting the bottom.
Yeah.
And
good things to do when you are in a slump are, if it's a prayer slump, because I've had moments of prayer slump. The best thing to do is to what I usually do is I'll go find a hallow or a YouTube video of a prayer, and I'll play it and I'll listen and then I'll just do that, and that'll be the best I can do at the beginning. And then eventually you pray with it. And it's a good way to, like, get back into prayer when you're not ready to pray.
Yeah. I think a lot of when I get into a spiritual slump is I don't want to go to confession. Because I hate confession.
See, and mine, I feel like is a lack of prayer. Like, I just, like, I get tired of talking, and so I just stop.
Yeah.
But I do that in real life, too.
So I think with having, like, a consistent prayer routine, sometimes I get into a slump because I'm like, I do the same thing. I gotta do this before I can, like, go to bed. But, like, my slumps typically happen because I don't want to go to confession, and I've just gotten too lazy to go. And so, like, my first step whenever I get into, like, a rock bottom is to go to confession. Because typically if I'm in a rock bottom, I haven't been to confession in, like, 3 months.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, that's just me. And then there are some times where I'm, like, actively sinning, and I'm like, I'm not going to go to confession for this, because then I can't do it anymore.
See, mine's never like that. If I'm avoiding confession, mine is like I don't deserve forgiveness for it. I'm just gonna accept that I don't deserve it.
And, like, that's one of my biggest vices, I think, is there are many times where I have been like, I don't want to stop doing what I'm doing, so I'm not going to confession, because in the confessional, I say I'm gonna try to sin no more. So I'm not gonna lie in the confessional.
Yeah, I think mine, I feel like I do something similar, but, like, not the same way. Mine's more like, I don't want to say it again. I don't want to have to say it again. So I just won't go.
Like,
I'm not going because I'm going to have to say it again.
Yeah. And, like, a lot of times I feel like when I go so consistently, I'm saying the same things over and over and over again, and I'm like, why can't I beat this? And then it's like, I mean, I'm trying, but I just can't. You know?
You gotta give it to God so He can help you.
Yeah.
But you're not very good at that because you want to do it yourself.
How dare you?
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Let me get all the way off your back there.
Wow.
Hey, you're my best friend. I see it in
She
you.
just called me out.
I didn't need to. It was an accident. I was just trying to be helpful.
Thank you. This is the kind of friendships you need where they'll call you out.
Even if it was an accident.
Yeah. So, that's kind of our take on rock bottoms and random other things that we said.
Yeah, we kind of went off. We didn't have a
plan.
And that usually backfires into
But
us saying too much.
The Holy
or
Spirit
not enough.
guided us in this for you. And so we hope you enjoy it. We hope it finds you enjoy it. We hope you learned
Sympathize with
something
it? You
or
feel it.
felt yourself in it. And then like if you have any like questions, if you need help getting out of a spiritual slump or a rock bottom, like, you know, send an email or something. We can help you.
We can try.
We can try.
We're also human.
Experts, yeah. And if we can't try, or like we can't figure it out, we can direct you to people who might be able to help you.
We know people.
We know some people.
I think the greatest takeaway from all of this is like there is a comeback. It's gonna hurt, and you're not gonna want to do it, but there is a way back.
There's a big comeback.
You just have to make the first step.
Yeah.
And then the next one.
Yeah. Well, I'll say I was in a pretty big like spiritual slump the year that I had my best Lent ever.
I remember your best Lent ever.
My best Lent ever. Listen, ladies, and maybe even gentlemen out there, but ladies, I gave up my reflection for Lent one year. And I have never felt more at peace with something I gave up. Never felt more joy in my suffering. And it was just a beautiful time. And it led me to veiling. It led me to the Latin Mass. And like, it's this journey I went on. And it's so beautiful. And so sometimes it's like, oh, I want to replicate this thing. But it's so hard because there's nothing that's ever going to be like that turning point in your life, you know?
Yeah.
And so
you like, turn hard, but you only can turn hard so many times.
Yeah, exactly.
Before you're just making a box.
And then like there's like times where you're like, I want to grow, but I feel like the next growing step isn't in front of me yet.
Yeah.
And so you just have to keep being persistent in what you're doing.
Keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward. So we're trying to close this out. We just keep talking.
We're a whole problem.
We are.
But
so in the next few weeks, we're gonna have some more stuff coming up. This kind of closes our chapter on like insecurity, being enough, and rock bottoms. If you can think of something that might fit into this same topic, you can
drop it below. We'll add a video.
The next kind of like, I guess it's not really a series, but a little mini.
Yeah, it's gonna be
mini times.
kind of more on femininity as a whole. Yeah. So like, guys, you can always watch.
And I would, just because sometimes like it's hard for men and women to communicate. That's part of the fall.
Yeah.
Is that men and women don't understand each other.
Yeah.
And so like
I'd blame it on the Tower of Babel, but it wasn't that.
Yeah, but like it's part of the fall is like men and women don't have those communication skills and they find each other, to be rather confusing. And so if you're a man, please listen. And
it can help.
We could attempt to find a man and talk about like this is masculinity or something.
Hey, we know a guy.
I don't think he would come.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
I was actually talking about a different guy than the guy you were talking about. But that's really funny.
Yeah, anyway.
We should get those two guys to recreate Tea Time.
That would be pretty funny.
That'd be a funny episode.
I would enjoy watching that. But we're gonna talk.
Camera talking.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about authentic femininity. That's what I think every time I say it.
Femininity is a hard thing to say.
So we're gonna talk about authentic femininity, and then we're gonna talk about modesty. And I don't know if we have anything like planned specifically after that.
I can't remember. It's been a while since I looked at the list.
Yeah, but like men, please join us for both of those episodes. Men can be modest too.
Modest is honest.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I hate that term.
Me too.
Um,
Anyway, like, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications, leave a comment. If you have any ideas of things you want to hear us talk about, we'll talk about them. Even if there are things we don't really want to talk about, we kind of are gluttons for torture, especially if we do it to ourselves. So,
yeah.
give us things. We'll find a way to talk about it, and if it's something really hard, we'll pray about it, and then we'll probably talk about it because that's just who we are as people.
Yeah.
And what comes next?
Don't-
Please
oh.
wait. Please help us on our journey to be YouTube influencers. It is obviously what we want to do. I mean, look at us. We're fashion icons.
I am. I don't know about you.
We just stopped being best friends. Anyway, don't forget to keep striving for likeness, and we will see you next week.
And good luck on your Lenten journey. We'll be praying for you.
Yeah, pray for us too.
All right.
Bye.